For spiritual. So we wait. Hi, everybody. With an introduction like Reverend Dr. Maxine gave me, wow. I got to tell you that we are all fortunate to have probably the best teacher living today in religious science, science of mind, as our spiritual leader. And I would suggest that if any of you ever have an opportunity to take one of her classes, and if you pay attention, you'll find out where there is one coming up real soon, take it. What I wanted to talk to you today about was feeling in awe of life. And why I wanted to do this was basically for us to recognize how super life really is, because oftentimes these days we take a look at stuff that we don't like, and we focus on what we don't like, and we take a look at the past, and we regret things in the past, and it makes us feel kind of grumpy. I know it does me when I focus on that. Also, I recognize that when that happens, besides being grumpy, we can feel really depressed and really despondent. Now, the last 24 hours, we woke up yesterday, snow, and it was beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. And then last night, after spending some evening with some wonderful friends, we get home and I take our young pup, Yoga, 20 years young, out to walk in the snow, and she gets stuck to the snow. That's how cold it was. So this afternoon, we get to go buy booties for Yoga. Coming up this month, beginning on February the 1st, is Lunar New Year. So we recognize that we're moving into change, and eventually that means spring is around the corner. Also, on February 2nd, we've got Groundhog's Day, which some centers, including the Seattle Church, which I was very familiar with for years since both of us were in Washington State, celebrate every year. We call it the religious science holiday, because what it allows us to do is focus on the good rather than on darkness, because when the groundhog comes out and he sees a shadow, it's like us when we come up and see our shadows. We just get attracted to more shadows rather than seeing the light. We need to look for the light. The other thing about February is that it's Black History Month. And I wanted to share a name with you. I hadn't heard it before, Carter Woodson. Now, for those of you who would like to study a little bit about Black history and Black History Month, check it out. He's the only person ever to have been born of enslaved people and receive a PhD, let alone a PhD from Harvard. Pretty amazing stuff. Okay, so let's move into what I want to talk to you about now. You see, to know you is to love you. And if you don't love yourself right now, that's because you don't really know who you are. What do you mean, I don't know who I am? Or I think I am what I am. I feel I am what I am. I perceive I am what I am. No. Because who you really are is much more than that. You're not the intellect. You're not this mind. You're not this body. Oh, I know, I know, I know. The intellect thinks the thought. The mind feels emotions. The body perceives objects. But that's not who you are. Because, bear with me a moment, you recognize that you can numb a piece of the body or whatever, you can fall asleep and forget about the body entirely, you can be put unconscious, and you can still know who you are. Your feelings can change with having a raw potato or having too much sugar. I know if I have too much sugar, my feelings can change. Or if I get hungry, I get a Betty White moment. So it's not our body, it's not our feelings, and they say, well, it's my intellect. But the point is that I change my thoughts anytime I want. So how can we be our intellect? Because there actually are times between the thoughts where if I was my thoughts, I wouldn't exist. So if we're not our body, and if we're not our feelings, minds, and if we're not our intellects, what are we? Sri Chimayananda would say, Tat Tavam Asi, that thou art. Through all of that. You are that I am that expresses through the intellect, through the feelings, through the heart, through the body. You are that which emanates all. That's really who you are. So you can be nothing more than immortal, perfect, whole, and divine, because that is what you are. You can get kind of depressed by looking at it. Now, why is that? Because for some of us, we think that that's actually real. It's actually real. Well, I'm not saying that stuff isn't happening out there, but I'm saying, is it happening in our own world? Is it happening in our own experience right at this moment? No, not unless we allow ourselves to sink into that despair or sink into that. I know that if we focus too much on the negativity, it doesn't bode well for our emotional well-being. Too much news, it's not good for me. So we hardly watch any news at all. We subscribe to newspapers. Oh, and by the network, check that out sometime. And you can actually download a Good News Network app so you can be acquainted with good news that comes. Now, the reason why this is important is not really that bad stuff doesn't happen, but we can be a part of creating better stuff, or we can go into creating worse stuff. Well, you felt really bad about a physical condition that you felt really bad about. Maybe you had a pain in the back, a pain in the neck, you had a pain somewhere. What would you do? You'd go get some help, wouldn't you? You would do something about it. And what I'm urging us to do is, if we have pain or an emotional